Welcome to the next episode of the Talk of the Town podcast with Kevin Cole. I am Cameron Cole, and, well, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Of course, it's July in Southeast Texas, so it's always quite warm.
So warm or hot?
Well, it's always hot.
It's always hot. Speaking of hot, we're going to talk about a hot topic today.
Super hot topic.
So before we kind of get into the apartments, the townhomes, high-density residential, is it needed? Is it not needed? Why do people push back against it? We want to let the public know that Pearland City Council has been working on a town hall. It's coming up in the next week or so. So pay attention to social media platforms, the city page, absolutely. Reach out to your council member, reach out to your mayor about getting the date and time of that. At the taping of this episode is kind of tentative, so we don't want to give a date and be wrong.
Right.
We want to be accurate in our information. So be on the lookout if you want to join and actually be a part of that town hall concerning high density residential. Right. With that being said, kind of set the stage for us today and what we're going to talk about with property rights, with the legislature, and the like.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, housing is getting harder and harder from an affordability standpoint, right? So we have many, many families, couples, young couples, that home ownership, which has always been, a piece of America. That rite of passage to where you own a piece of property, put a house on it, and live your life, right? And so that is becoming out of reach for some families, for some young couples especially. So it's just harder and harder. And right here in Pearland, and you're seeing this in the 288 corridor as you move down the corridor from Pearland to Manville to Iowa Colony, that the cost of new homes, is no longer in the 100,000 to 200,000 range. It's mid 300s, and up, 400s, 500s, and more in a regular sized neighborhood. And so, and then if you look at Pearland specific, and you look at the resale market, I mean, a home that was built 40 years ago for $60,000, $80,000 is being sold mid threes.
Well,
today.
To that extent, I just recently sold my house and moved into a new house this past month or so. House was built back in the mid to late 70s, and the price tag of it was $300,000.
Right.
Like you said, the resale, it's great for homeowners reselling a home.
Right.
But for first-time buyers, for couples in a situation like Sarah and I are in,
right,
where we have a family of, of 4 kids and another on the way.
Well,
affordability is tough.
And I can bring some expert witness, if you will, to this. I've spent the last 26 years in residential development of lots, subdivisions, and those types of things. So I understand the drivers behind it. And so, today, a starter home, the traditional starter home, is now on a 40-foot lot, is now 40 foot by 110, 120, somewhere in that ballpark. And even that is going to be pushing $300,000 for a finished product. And so people are getting less for more. And so it's not just something that's happening, right here locally. It's happening across our state. And quite frankly, it's happening across the nation. I'm going to take a couple of minutes and share my reasons why, okay? And what it is the cost of labor has gone up exponentially, and you can go back and see what has caused it.
You can see the spikes.
And what are some potential, remedies for it. Number one, if you go back to when Trump came into office, in 2017, after winning the 2016 election, what did he do? He closed the border. And so what happened with that is cheap labor was coming across that border to build homes in Texas, build homes, for us to live in. And, well, that started drying up. I mean, that went away. People weren't coming back and forth. He effectively, dried that up. Well, what happened in late 17? Harvey. So in Harvey, I'm speaking specifically locally. What happened in Harvey is that labor force went to remodels because insurance was paying that bill, okay? You had, flood insurance and all that kind of stuff, all the floods that were happening as a result of Harvey. That was being done. And so that labor market went there as opposed to new builds. And when it got finished with running through Harvey and getting everything back to normal, that marketplace for framers and electricians and plumbers and everything else that were in those markets, they said, we're going to keep our price tag where it is. We're not going to lower back down. Okay. So as a result, labor cost on that side went up. Then you fast forward to 2020 and we have COVID. What happened with COVID? Supply chain killed it. What happened to lumber in Texas?
Oh.
It was on the non-exempt list. So when that happened, remember lumber, just going and getting a 2x4 at Lowe's or Home Depot or, O'Days or wherever.
Hardware,
what did that cost? Okay, it tripled in cost.
And has it cost gone down since COVID?
It's come down, but it didn't come back down to pre-COVID.
Right.
Okay, so cost of material, cost of labor exponentially, went up, and so that's real. Now, a potential fix for that, I believe, now that President Trump is back in office, I think we need to have a very, very strong guest worker program for people in that industry. They can be sponsored by the sub companies that work for the D.R. Hortons and K-Hubs and Beezers of the world. There's only a handful of companies that do framing in the Houston area.
Right.
Most people don't know that.
Right.
But there's a very small number, okay? And so we need to bring that labor back in, but it needs to be a guest worker. So those companies need to be able to sponsor people, bring that labor in, and bring that labor cost back down. That's one of the things. Now, the theory of supply and demand is at play as well. So in the nation right now, we are lagging about 4 million new starts. Part of that has been brought about because of affordability. Part of that affordability is the cost of a mortgage, interest rates. What were interest rates before COVID, during COVID? Remember the sub 3% interest rate that you could have?
Yep.
Your interest rate.
My interest rate just doubled after one selling a house. Yeah.
Right. So that affected you and what you could purchase, right? And so that's happening in the marketplace too. So we're seeing, I think you were able to get right at a 6% interest rate. And so, so there's a lot of people who used to be at 3, they're kind of conditioned, they want to move to this, and now it's 6. So that's having an effect in the marketplace. And so as a result, the supply and demand, the theory is you increase supply, right? Demand's there. You increase supply, that'll drive down cost. In theory, what's not taken into consideration when you have that is what's the cost of the land? That's not going down. Right. What's the cost of infrastructure? That's not going down. So what's having to happen is shrinking the lots, making it smaller and smaller, putting more lots, spreading that cost of infrastructure, water, sewer, drainage, and detention over more lots, not less lots, not larger lots, but more lots, smaller lots, bringing the lot cost down to where you can put a house on it and sell it. And unfortunately, even still doing that, you're talking about a $300,000 price tag. If you drive around the Houston area, you will see developments where they're advertising now in the low to mid 2s. Lennar is actually advertising in some of their subdivisions in the high 1s.
Okay. I mean, sounds good, but until what?
Till you see what you get.
Right.
So you have to be careful what you're buying, right? And so, again, this is starter home. This isn't meant for somebody's forever home. It's building that American dream and doing things. And so in those cases, it might be a 25-foot lot. Okay. Now, so as a result of that, developers are trying to hit a marketplace, and now you have cities resisting the marketplace, trying to get to an affordability issue. There is an affordability gap. It's real. It's real in Pearland. It's real in Manville, Iowa Colony, Alvin. It's real in Houston. It's real all over the nation. So somebody's trying to hit that affordability gap and fill that gap. And as a result, it's becoming harder and harder to get the zoning and everything else through with cities. Additionally, in Texas, you've got a water issue as well. You don't have water in some cities. So I'm saying all that to say also where our growth is coming from, what's happening in Texas specifically, right? That's what we're talking about. Talk of the town and talk about our area. So in Texas, number one state to do business in for like 12 years running now. You've got tons and tons and tons of people moving here. I think we're at 1,500 people a day. Okay, and so all of that's coming in because the job growth is here. We're adding more jobs than any other state. In fact, most other states combined. We're adding more jobs in Texas. So that's what's happening here. So where is Texas going? What are we looking like? I'm going to be the bad news right now. I'm going to just deliver the bad news. State of Texas has about 31 million people living in it today. By 2050, that's 24 years out, we're going to be at about 47 million.
By the way, since you said that, isn't it crazy that we're closer to 2050 than we are 2000?
Yep.
Just throwing that out there. It's crazy.
That hurt. So, that hurt. So what that means is
16 million people.
More people
More.
than we have today.
The next 24
We
years.
all know about the big triangle, Dallas-Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and that big triangle. That triangle represents about 68 to 70% of the population that's in Texas today. It's going to represent about that same amount of population
over the next
growth
25
over the
years.
next 24 years. So when you drill it down, it means the Houston area, okay, greater Houston area, 8 to 12 counties, is going to add about 4 million people.
Okay. So
What does that look like?
to take the city of Los Angeles and dump it on Houston.
Correct. The city of Los Angeles proper, go Google it, look at it. It's right at 4 million people.
Jeez.
Picking it up over 24 years and setting it here. So your growth is going to be around the Beltway
Right.
and the Grand Parkway.
Well, and we have the Grand Parkway going in now.
and the
right?
Grand Parkway. So that's where the growth is going. So where is Pearland in that? Where is Alvin, Manville, Liverpool? Let's talk about Liverpool.
Brazoria County better wake
Brazoria
up.
County, right? So we're in the wake of that. We're in the path of that. And so that's why the growth is happening, and that's why the people are moving here. Let's not forget for a second that there are births that happen every year. I think it was 2 years ago in the greater Houston area, we had 100,000 births. They didn't move here.
Right.
They were born here. So when you take into that growth and kids, the birth rates are actually down, but the sheer volume of people is growing. Even if the rate stays where it's at,
It's increasing.
it's still a large number of people. So all of that to say, how do we do this? People have to live somewhere because we don't want homeless.
Right.
Okay, so they have to live somewhere. So you see a marketplace of apartments. You see a marketplace of townhomes, again, smaller, trying to spread that cost over more and more units, but still have something that's affordable but nice for a community to be in. You have single-family residential starting at 25, 30, 40-foot lots, upwards to, acreage. And then how does all that work? That's
So-
where we are.
So let's go ahead and get into this then. What is the correct way to implement these housing? If we need apartments, if we need townhomes, if we need high density residential, what is the best course of action in doing that? Now we had our state legislature that passed 2 bills this past session. We have that route that's currently underway.
Correct.
And then we also have a more local approach,
Right.
which allows your local city, its zoning, and for them to kind of make decisions moving forward. So it's happening, but which way is better? What are the pros and cons of both? Let's kind of, I guess, since we're talking about high density residential first, maybe let's dive into SB 15 first, which is the Senate Bill 15 for the 89th legislature. It has been known as the Tiny Lot Bill.
Tiny lot bill. Right.
So in their tiny lot means 4,000 square feet or less. That's the lot, not the house, the lot. So we can start there and just talk about the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, the ugly of SB 15.
Yeah. So I am always going to take the approach that local matters. That local control is just that. It needs to be local control, not state push, state controlled, federal controlled. It needs to be local controlled.
Okay.
And so
I'm with you on that.
So before we get into 15, to answer your question, the approach needs to be the local entity, whether it's the city of Pearland or the city of Iowa Colony or Alvin or the city of Houston or Friendswood. It doesn't matter. They need to be in control of who, what, and where they want to be one day. Okay. They're a city. They're controlled by local city councils, and they need to have the ability to say, this is what type of city we want to be one day, and then go and do that. So do you want to be a zone city? Do you not want to have zoning? What do you want from your development standards? That needs to be delivered and derived by the local people saying this is what we want to be to their officials,
Well,
and then moving that forward.
In order to be a zone city, you have to take that to
The vote of the
your
people.
voting of the people.
Yeah.
So if it was voted on by the citizens of Pearland specifically. So if we're talking about a state trying to enact this bill, wouldn't that be in direct?
Yeah, so it's circumventing the will of the voters. It's circumventing the will of the people in our locale. And so specifically then to SB 15, which is the tiny lot bill, and it changed towards the end of the legislative session. It started out as minimum all the way down to a 20-foot lot. Okay? And which means with 5-foot side yard setbacks, that's a 10-foot wide house.
So I can touch the house.
So real quick,
I
hey,
go house to house.
Raul,
I think we have a picture.
Sent you a graphic.
Yeah.
And so you see right there, that is a house that is sitting on a 20-foot lot. That is actually a subdivision in San Antonio. That's not made up. That's physically on the ground today in San Antonio. That is a 10-foot wide house. It has one door, and that's the front door. It has a handful of windows in the front and on the sides and nothing in the back. And so that house is approximately 400 square feet, and it's 2-story. So think about your garage all laid out. That's what that is. And so this tiny lot legislation is what it's attempting to do is push all of the rules and regulations of the local communities out of the way. Now, who does it apply to?
Yes, I think that's key in understanding who
It's
it applies
key
to.
in understanding that it's not just every city or county. It's targeted at cities. It's targeted at cities that are 150,000 in population in a county of 300,000 in population.
Which we currently, no city in Brazoria County is there. However,
Correct.
We're looking at the next census of the city of Pearland. Very well should be at that 150 mark.
Approximate is about 138,000 today, with the growth of single family around us down in the Massey Oaks area and all of that. We very easily could be at 150 at 2030, 4 years from now. And so because of that, the city and our city council and our mayor and our staff are trying to figure out, do we embrace certain things on the development front today so we shape what's happening?
So you have a say in it.
So we have a say in it versus the way these bills come down, we literally have no say. So where can this tiny lot legislation occur? It can occur on any residential type tract in the city that's 5 acres or more, okay, that is unplatted.
It's unplatted.
So if you look at most of our 5 acres or more
We've done the math on this.
developed that's out there, when you look at it, we have approximately 1,600 to 1,700 acres in the city that this would apply to. And if you legitimately applied the entire density that it would create, not saying that every single developer would build that.
We're not saying every landowner will sell off to this. We're not saying that. But as a city, you have to plan for the greatest possible impacts.
So you have to plan for water, you have to plan for sewer,
Right.
you have to plan for roadways, you have to plan for all those kind of things.
Assuming those 16 to
It's
1,700 acres.
28,000 lots.
See, 28,000 lots. The
Yeah.
national average is what, 3.5 per
Yeah.
home. So do the math. 28,000 times 3.5. It's another 100,000 people.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's what this bill does to our city.
And zero say so by the local city, zero say so by the neighbors. So the way the zoning works right now, if somebody had 5 acres, 10 acres next door to you or around the corner from you and they wanted to come in and do a tiny lot subdivision,
do it.
it would require, before this, it would require a plan development and zoning through the city. You'd have notifications, you'd have public hearings, you would have all of that kind of thing that goes on with council, with the public,
With Planning and Zoning Commission,
and
all
the
of it.
public and the neighbors weighing in. Post going at 150, zero say by the city.
It
Zero
just
say.
breaks ground one day.
Just all of a sudden it happens. And there are some rules and regulations within it, but it's very bare minimum. No garages,
Right.
okay? 5-foot side yard setback, 10-foot front setback. So you're talking about, where do you park?
Yeah.
How do you improve the roads? How do you do any of that? The only exception to this is if we don't have water. So if we don't have water to deliver them, we can actually say no. And so it would be detrimental to our city. It would be detrimental to who we are. Now, doesn't mean that, I go back to early when we started this episode, we talked about we're going to have to shrink our lots. We're going to have to do these kind of things and bring in certain types of building systems that make sense. But it needs to be what we look at and want, not what's just forced on us by the state.
Right.
That's single family.
So I was just kind of going, I have the bill pulled up in front of me, and I'm kind of going through some of the requirements that you're talking about. And I was going to read off a few of them. You said a couple of them. But here's some of the things. So it's 15 feet from the front, or 10 feet from the back of the property line, or 5 feet from the side of the property. We talked about that. Covered parking. So it's no more than one parking space per unit. And there's no required. And then off-site parking. So so if you have a family, you have a teenager at home, where's all those cars going? In the street. Right. Let's talk, we can talk about emergencies, right? With our big fire trucks and whatnot get down. That's causing bottlenecks. So there's more than just the density aspect of it. You got to think about the emergency aspect of it too.
Now I will say I want to plug one of our state representatives, Jeff Berry, for a second.
Yeah.
So Jeff's very first session, the 89th legislative session, he fought this bill.
He did.
He fought this bill on our behalf. I can tell you, as mayor, I made the trip to Austin on numerous occasions to talk specifically about this one in the multifamily bill, and I had the opportunity to sit with the legislature that filed this bill in the House. Gary Gates, he's over in the Fort Bend County, Fulshire area, living, and I will tell you, he didn't even know the impacts that his bill was going to occur on local entities.
Like Pearland. Right.
Even more frightening is he didn't care. He absolutely did not care about the local interest, local control. And so, tongue-in-cheek, I actually looked at him and said, well, Representative Gates, we're going to require something. I don't really care what your bill has to say. And if it comes in and it's built, I'm going to require a sign be put in front of it that this development is being brought to you by SB 815. And here is Gary Gates' cell phone number.
Well,
and boy, he didn't like that. But I told him, I said, why are the locals going to take the hit for your bill?
For your bill.
When they didn't ask for this.
And the 150 threshold wasn't the original threshold on the bill.
No, it was 90.
It was 90. So because
we would have already been
because of your efforts and because of Jeff's efforts talking with Gates, we're able to get that threshold to 150, which means we have a little bit of time to kind of think about this before it actually hits us.
We were pushing it to 200.
We wanted 200 to 250, right?
And we just couldn't get it there, so we had to accept what we could get. So, at the same time, we've been told through the grapevine that if any attempt to increase this in the next session,
From
this next
150
year,
to either 2 or 250.
anything above, that it may open up Pandora's box to drop it.
So retribution.
Correct.
Okay. So what I will say is
So we have to be careful.
we have to be careful, but I think it's very important for the residents that live in Brazoria County know that they got to talk to their state leaders. This is a local issue, sure, but your local representatives, your mayors, your councils are fighting this on the front line,
We want local control.
and we want local control. It's not a power grab. It is 100% putting it back in the people's hands when they do that.
Right.
Now that's just the small lot tiny home. Then we have this other bill,
Right.
SB 840,
Right.
which directly goes to commercial zones and apartments.
Yeah. So the way it's structured just like SB 15, except it's tied to apartments and mixed use development. And so again, it's at 150. It started at 65,000.
Right.
And we were able to get it to 150. I will tell you, the city of League City helped with this bill as well, and we were able to get it to 150. Same thing, trying to push and get it higher. We've been told may go back to 65,000. So the way this bill is structured, just like the single family residential one, is any business zoned property. I think the only exception is industrial.
I believe you're right.
Would be by right. This would be allowed to happen. So if you go and look at the city of Pearland, so empty acreage along Broadway, empty acreage along 35 Main Street, any acreage on frontage of 288, any acreage that's zoned commercial or general business or anything like that up and down McCard or any of our major arteries like this, automatically day one would be open to this. I asked our head of community development, where all the development comes through at the city of Pearland, as this bill was working its way through the legislature, I said, if this were to pass today and we were in it, what would happen? And his response was, we would have 10 applications on our door the next day.
Not shocking. Yeah.
10.
10. Not shocking at all.
And zero say in how it looks. So let's talk about that.
That's
Recently, we've had an apartment zoning request on Magnolia and 1128. There's a current complex that sits there now.
So you're referencing the Delta, right?
The Delta sits there now. So we're talking about the tract across the street, which is 15 acres. And they came in, and so far we have denied them because of the outcry of people in our community about more apartments. So let's compare what they asked for in their application and being able to work with them on getting that done versus what they could do by right in just a few years.
If they just wait a few years.
In just a few years. Okay? So what they proposed was 3 stories. They, under this bill, could go to 4.
And on top of that, so when you talk about 4, then the question of sightline comes up. So I believe this bill does not have has a required setback, sure, but it's much closer to residential proper line.
So in working with the developer, we could require a farther setback from the existing residential. We could require a lower height than what this bill would allow. And then I believe what was proposed was somewhere in the 330 range. So 330 divided by 15 was 22 units to the acre.
So it's being proposed at 22 units to the acre, where your bill says
would allow,
you can allow up to 36 units per acre,
which would be 540 units on this tract of land.
So your current applicant is about roughly 200 or so less.
Right.
That's because that's the city's required.
That's how we're negotiating,
negotiating
and
it.
getting a better deal. And we typically don't want in our city a typical garden style apartment. Okay, we want more of a urban feel of urban wrap. If you go out on 288 and you see the Ivy Lofts, that's our first structured parking where everything is built around. And so if you go across the street and look at the Delta, it's technically a garden apartment with a mid-rise feel. So if you see everything facing Magnolia, for example, there's no doors, there's no walk-ups, there's no stairs that you can see from that. It's all internal.
Right.
It's all internal, which is what an urban or mid-rise feel does. Okay, I think we did allow some 4 stories there because of the mass up front. If you'll also notice, all of the parking is pushed to the back, so you don't technically see the parking along the Magnolia Parkway. So that was all push and shove and negotiating with the developers and getting to a product that was appealing. All of that's out the door with SB 840.
840.
And so at some levels, the developer may come back and just say, "Hey, I'm just going to sit on this for 4 years. As soon as the legislation happens, I'm just going to go do it what I want to do."
Well, and right now, you as a council, you can negotiate amenities. Well, this bill doesn't require them. So there's you as a council, we can they could.
So an amenity would be like clubhouse,
pools,
open space,
parks,
those types of things.
Well, council can also help and require landscaping.
Right.
I don't think there's much of a requirement, if any, buffer of landscaping in this bill.
Correct.
So there's zone changes and CUPs there for a reason.
Correct.
And this circumvents all of those reasons.
Right.
So it goes. So when you're talking about, let's talk about the public outcry that you mentioned. With residents showing up and demanding no apartments, we understand that. We get that. Yeah. But they also have to understand and look at the possibility of what could happen in just a few short years.
Well, in addition to that, so let's dispel some of the backlash of what we hear. Okay. This is going to add a ton of kids to Pearland ISD or Alvin ISD. It's going to add more kids to an already stressed system. So I will tell you, I understand the development community understand what drives and has more kids than less kids. So when you start getting into 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom apartments, that's when you're driving more children into the school system. If you have single bedroom and 2-bedroom for your bulk, that's not driving more kids. It's a smaller unit. You just don't have the kids that are living there, especially on a single bedroom. So if you go and look at the Delta, we'll use that one as one of the most recent. That complex and that development is for the most part single. They have some efficiencies.
Yeah.
They have single bedroom, and they have a lot of single, a lot of double, and less than 10% is 3-bedroom.
3-bedroom.
And so the number of kids that they're sending to Pearland ISD is about 30. Is about 30 total out of some 350, 360 units that are in there existing. Okay. At the same time, Pearland ISD is actually dropping enrollment. Most school districts, other than Alvin and Angleton, because of the growth that's going on there, are actually shrinking in size. Most school districts are shrinking in size. In fact,
so the school district needs the development.
Yeah. So Fort Bend ISD just recently announced they are closing 7 schools or 6 or 7 schools because of the lower enrollment in their district. Okay. And so Pearland ISD is seeing a smaller kindergarten classes than their graduating classes right now. So they actually need the kids. And I'm not saying we go build apartments for their needs.
No, I think we need to be very clear. We're not advocating for or against. We're just simply presenting the facts in front of us.
And so the other thing that's fact is I hear all the time, well, we don't want Section 8 housing. That apartments automatically bring Section 8 housing.
I hear that too.
Okay, and the answer to that is no, it doesn't, because Section 8 requires a vote of council. So all of these apartments that have been proposed to date are market rent. They're paying what the market is bearing. And so I'll tell you, the highest market rent in town right now is the Delta and Ivy Lofts out off of the freeway, and they're over $2 a foot. Okay, over $2 a foot per month. So take an apartment that's, I don't know, 800 square feet times $2. That's $1,600 rent. Okay, times 12 months, they're paying $19,000 for the year. And so, you can get close to buying a house at that. Okay. And so a lot of the market rents, we're seeing market rents in some units upwards of $2,000.
Oh, and more.
Right.
Because we see it.
Right.
And so, and of course we hear public outcry because of it. And as I mentioned, it's really important for them to understand all aspects of it. But then for those who are just absolutely against it, no more building, no more development, there's really one way to stop that.
So this goes back to property rights. So if you own a piece of property, at some level, you should have a right to develop it, right? I mean, if it's an empty piece of property, you should have a right to go do that. We have zoning in Pearland, so you don't necessarily have a right to change zoning, but you do have a right to develop your property. So there's where private property rights and zoning and everything else mesh together. It's very, very difficult. But if you see a piece of property and you don't ever want anything on it, you got to own it. So go buy it. Or who has to own it? The city does.
Yeah, the city does.
The city does. Now, so my philosophy on that, if the government owns all the land, that's one of the definitions of socialism.
Well, true.
Okay, and I am
You're
no shape, form, or
not
fashion
advocating for it.
advocating for socialism. But when people say, well, I just don't want anything ever built there, well, you have to own it, or the government has to own it.
So I'm not saying we're going to do this, but a big if the city were to go and own the rest of the undeveloped land in the city of Pearland, roughly, what do you think that would cost?
Yeah, so I've done the math on this and just giving some conservative estimates on the price of land. Somewhere between $700 and $800 million to buy up all the land, which means your taxpayers, your taxes would have to foot that bill to buy all that. And I think it just goes to show that's not going to happen. But that's what it would take to cut all
development off.
And so we even get, the city gets pushback on even commercial development. Industrial development, all the development that's going up off the Beltway and creating jobs and primary jobs.
Off 35 right now.
Off of 35 right now. Yep. And so there's this push and pull. We just don't want any more. So remember, we set this whole thing up with people are moving here. People are bringing their lives. They're uprooting around the country. People are being born and adding children. And so they need more places or bigger places to live. So all of that is happening, and how do we put all of this in this bowl and mix it all together and create some place that we can call home one day? I mean, it's important that we have this conversation. So it's real important, and I'm absolutely in favor of our city and our mayor and our council coming together and saying, number one, kind of what do we want? But number two, our elected officials need to be educating the public, just like we're doing here. So at this town hall that's coming up, the goal is to also educate. Yes, we need to listen to people when they say, no, we don't want it. Okay.
I will say, be careful what you ask for, though.
Be careful what we ask for, because if we do nothing, in a few years, we get SB 15 and SB 840.
Well, I'll say this. It's crazy that so many people are pro property rights until something's being developed next to them.
That is so true.
It happens all the time.
And you've heard the NIMBY, not in my backyard. And so we have that alive and well in Pearland. and we need to continue to have dialogue. I think it's important that we have dialogue, but there needs to be a reasonable approach. If you own a piece of property, you have a right to do something with that property other than just pay taxes on vacant land. At the same time,
Well, and I will say, if the city did own it, that land is now not being
taxed.
Right. So what happens to the tax rate?
Well, and if you're talking $700 or $800 million to buy up all the land,
And then you still have to buy the land on top of that.
you're talking doubling your tax rate.
So I hope this was educational to those that are watching. Yeah. Are we advocating for one way or the other? No. But
Yeah,
I think it's important for them to
and
understand.
I'll say this topic is very difficult
It is.
to navigate. It's very difficult because there's so much emotion in it,
And nothing will be solved with one conversation either,
or one town hall.
or one town hall.
No.
So I hope this kind of spurs on more conversations with not only our local mayor and council, but our representatives, our state senators, and others, because this is not an issue that's going to go away anytime soon.
And so, moving forward, we're now 4 episodes in to Talk of the Town. I hope it's been entertaining. I hope it's been good educational content for you. You can see kind of where we want to move. But we want to move away from Pearland for just a second.
Yep.
And we
This
want
next month is going to be very fun, I would say. So,
We want to have discussions and are having discussions with our area mayors, bringing them in, and let's talk about what's good and challenging in those communities, so we can educate on what's the topics of the day in the local communities as well. What's the talk of their town?
Right. Exactly. Well, that was a lot of information for today. I know these can get quite. We can lose track of what we're talking about. We're talking about housing. It's a big issue that needs to keep on being had. So, for those that are watching, I hope that you guys can let us know in the comments just what questions you may have. Maybe we'll bring them up in some time. We do appreciate you guys sticking around for the first month of these podcasts. As you mentioned, we're going to get away from Pearland, moving into the month of August with some area mayors. So stay tuned for the month of August. Stay tuned for who we might bring on. You never know who might show up on our show. So with that, this is the Talk of the Town podcast with local leaders, local stories, and local impact. You guys have a good one.